Hello and welcome everyone. This is Iván Cabielles from La Salle Gijón. In today's video lessons, we are going to revise together a tricky aspect of the English language for Spanish speakers, perfect tenses. During these lessons, we are going to revise and practice the structure of present and past perfect tenses, as well as their uses in English, which are sometimes different than in Spanish. By the end of the video, you will be able to recognize and use properly the two verb tenses and their variations and the useful keywords which help us identify them. Even before we start checking on these verbal forms, the first question we need to solve is why are these tenses so confusing for Spanish speakers? We have the same tense in our language, an equivalent, presente perfecto compuesto and pretérito pluscuamperfecto. But we made a lot of mistakes in their use in our own languages. In some regions, as Asturias, we don't use these composite verbs and we overuse simple forms. For example, instead of saying estoy lleno, he comido mucho, an Asturian would say estoy lleno, comí mucho. On the other hand, in many areas, they do the opposite by overusing the composite tense, which is also ungrammatical. The confusion between the perfect form and the past simple is a very typical mistake many students make, and we must pay attention to this. For this reason, we are going to explain you the different uses and forms of these tenses. Are you ready? Great! Let's go! In this part, we are going to review first the structure of the sentence, and we will do some practice to check that you have understood. Look at the joke. The first thing we must remember when we talk about perfect tenses is that they are going to have as marker the auxiliary verb to have, which will be conjugated in the tense we want, present or past. This auxiliary verb requires the verb to take the past participle form in the regular verb. This form is the same as the past form, so we will need to add ed as we reviewed. However, in irregular verbs, we require a specific form we must learn, remember? Sure you do. The third column in the awful list you hate at the end of the book. Your teacher may give you some hints and techniques on how to revise and study this list so you can remember all of them. Ask her or ask him, okay? In the example, look at that. What have you done in your life? In the question, we have the auxiliary have and the past participle of the verb to do. Done in this case. The structure of the present perfect simple is going to be easy if we pay attention to these details. In the affirmative, we will have the subjects, which will be followed by the conjugated auxiliary verb. As we are reviewing the present perfect form, have will be conjugated in the present, so it will be have in all subjects but the third person singular, which will be has. Using the same example as we have used in the previous unit, my friend playing baseball, in this tense the example would be he has already played baseball on the beach. Pay attention to the use of the third person singular form of the auxiliary and the fact that we use a special particle, already, which will be one of the typical perfect keywords. In the negative, the auxiliary gets the negative particle, not as usual. So the only change is the contracted negative, haven't or hasn't, depending on the subject again. Our example would change to, he hasn't played baseball on the beach yet. Look how in the negative we haven't used already, but yet, another keyword for perfect tenses. In questions, as we always say there must be a subject auxiliary inversion, so the subject and the auxiliary, in this case have or has, must change positions in the sentence. Consequently, for a yes-no questions, we need to start with the auxiliary form that corresponds, followed by the subjects, and next the main verb, always in the past participle form. Finally, we could add as many complements as we need to fulfill the meaning and communicative purpose of each of our question. The short answer in this case would be, again, yes he has, or no he hasn't. So our example would be turned into a yes-no question as, has he played baseball on the beach yet? Look how we are using again yet. As for WH questions, the only difference would be that the WH element would start our question. In this case, we don't know the place he has played baseball, so we would need to use where as a WH element. Applying this new structure to our example, we got, where has he played baseball? As you can clearly see, the structure of the verbal tenses in English is always the same and follow the same patterns with minor changes in the auxiliaries we use or in the form the main verb should take. But these structures are always the same. We have reviewed the structure of the present perfect simple tense, but we have also a continuous form. Look at these two examples. The first sentence is in the present perfect simple, following the structure we've just seen. But look at the second example. As you may clearly see, the present perfect continuous uses the verb to be, auxiliary for continuous tenses, but this time conjugated in the present perfects, have been or has been. And the main verb takes the gerund form by adding ing, as all continuous forms you have already known do. We would negate the first auxiliary have, I haven't been living, and when there's a question, it will also have the one changing positions with the subject. Have you been living? The structure is not complicated, right? But what's the difference in meaning, can you tell? Stop the video for a moment and try to guess this difference. I will comment on them in a few seconds. In the first sentence, the present perfect simple indicates that the action is recently over. The speaker is no longer living in Gijón, but moved to Madrid recently. In the second sentence, however, the uses of the present perfect continuous emphasizes the fact that the action continues up to the moment of speaking. Those are the two differences. Well now, after reviewing the structure of this verb, it's time to stop for a second and put all the information in order by doing some practice on this structure. In this practice, I will give you 6 disordered sentences. You have to place the words in the correct form to form grammatically correct sentences. As usual, you must stop the video and do it in your notebook. Once you finish, we play the video again, and in a few seconds I will give you the answers so you can correct yourselves. These are the 6 sentences. Stop the video and do the practice. Have you finished? In a few seconds I'm showing the answers. Okay, here we have the correct answers for these sentences. I haven't visited her since last summer. Number 2. What have they done with the old VCR? VCR means video recorder, okay? Number 3. Has she found those new books in the library? Number 4. He's been going out with her for a year. Number 5. We haven't finished the exercises for the class. And finally, number 6. These good builders have rebuilt my old country house. How was it? Did you have them right? A typical mistake you may have just made is not to write the third-person singular form has in the sentences using third-person singular, in this case, sentences 3 and 4. If you did them right, congratulations! With some more practice you could master this structure. Good job! If you have any question, remember that your teacher will always be happy to help you, solving your questions in class or contacting him or her in an habitual way. In the next video, we will explore the uses and keywords of present perfect. See you there!